Welcome, everybody, to the Geek Dad Report Game of Thrones review. I am Brian, King of the West, father of two dragons, caster of the pod, fan of the Hawks, and generally nice guy. And that beautiful man over there who is apparently running is Ryan Tomlinson. And tonight we're going to be talking about Episode 6 of Season 7, Beyond the Wall. But seriously, Ryan, what in the name of freaking the Lord of Light are you doing?
Oh, I was just practicing how you can run a couple 100 miles in like 2 hours.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Because, as you've seen in Game of Thrones, it's physically possible now. Yeah. So I was just trying to train for it.
Oh, well, you know what?
I figured if I can figure out how to run from Philadelphia to Seattle, we can start recording together, and then I'll just run all the way back home.
Well, if we're doing Game of Thrones rules, that should be no problem at all. That's only about a 30-second clip of a show, and we got this.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mentioned running. This was a very Olympic event episode of Game of Thrones. There was like javelin spear tossing.
Yeah.
There was epic running.
A little bit of curling.
Curling. There was
tossing the stone to kind of see like how far you can make it slide on the ice.
There was some diving, Olympic diving, underwater breath holding. There was some horse. What do you call horses? Equestrian? Some equestrian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was definitely that. There were a lot of fencing.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of fencing. If you can't tell, we have some, I'm not going to say problems with this episode, but we have some problems with this episode. Don't let our joking fool you. We thought this was, for the most part, another very good episode of something that's already been a great season. But I think Beyond the Wall suffered a little bit from the fact that every episode this season has been really good, and this one just had some really big plot holes that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
So in a lot of ways, this review is going to be kind of like the good, the bad, and what the hell is going on ugly in Westeros right now. So well, we're going to do those because we're positive guys. We're going to start out with all the good things that happened in this episode because there was a ton of them, and there were some massive game-changing reveals of this episode that you may not have caught all of them, so we're gonna break them down for you guys in case you didn't.
Yeah.
The first
and I have a favorite. I don't know if you had a favorite.
I had lots of favorite. What was your favorite?
My favorite was that Tormund reveals that he wants to have beautiful mad babies, beautiful big mad babies with Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments from this.
That whole scene was fucking.
Hilarious. Okay, so this episode started out with, our Magnificent Seven running through our Suicide Squad that ended up not being that much of a suicide mission.
Just trudging through the snow, going up mountains.
Well, and they had all this time to talk about, what was great is the writers looked at all these characters that hadn't interacted a lot, and there's a lot of, like, kind of hanging storylines that needed some completion, and they took this opportunity to fill that in, Tormund's in love with Brienne of Tarth, and the Hound, that's the only person who's ever defeated him, right? So, they have this conversation, and to your point, that was my favorite conversation. That was amazing. When Tormund was great in this episode.
He was. I've looked at the actor, and sadly he doesn't use his Twitter account, because I really wanted to start following him just see like what he's really like, but
just the whole point when they're talking about, like, he's like, how do you survive the North? He's like, well, what do you say? You fight?
It's like, no, you run.
Oh, you run, you fight, or you fuck. He goes, but that is the favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
He's got that moment, and they were talking about how do you survive up North?
But then Gendry said, well, there's not a lot of women around here. And he's like, that doesn't stop you.
That doesn't stop you. You make do with what you have on hand.
Yeah. And then Gendry, like, walks back, and him and Jon Snow's like, your friend's an idiot.
Yeah. He's like, how have you survived this long? I'm really good at fighting. When the Hound asks him. But just how he was talking about how he's been, he's like, I don't do it like you guys do down in the South. He's like, down in the South, you've been to Westeros. He goes, I've been south. He's like, you haven't never been south. He's like, I've been to Westeros. He's like, that's the North. And he's like, whatever. And he walks off. Yeah, he was great. And you know what? Much like Bronn in this episode, Tormund, we skipping ahead a little bit to the battle, he had his moment where he should have died, and he didn't die. I'm glad he didn't die because I love him, but God, this was his episode. He was so good in this episode.
Okay, this is the difference between George R.R. Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Just not giving a fuck about killing people, and the showrunners and writers who really don't want to kill fan favorites now. I mean, they would do everything they can to not kill the fan favorites now.
Well, yeah, and to your point, look at this season. We had 2 episodes ago. We talked about we talked about how Bronn was the MVP of what was the name of that episode? I don't know, the one where Drago destroys everything. Okay. And he was the total MVP, and it's set up that he dies a hero's death, and it's got consequences, and you fucking hate it, and you care. Yeah. George R. R. Martin would have axed his ass. Done, right?
Oh yeah. He would have just been. It would have been him pushing Jaime off the horse and then standing there and like just being enveloped. It would have just been like ashes, just Bronn ashes.
And in this episode, but he lives instead, right? We all love Bronn. Yeah. We're like, yeah, but George R. R. Martin would have killed him. It's guaranteed. And now you've got Tormund, same thing. Skipping ahead a little bit to the battle that we're going to talk about in a second. Everyone's fighting, and you just feel like somebody's going to just bite it, right? One of these main characters is going down, and they grab Tormund, and it's very much like a Jaws situation where you got some people kind of bringing him down on the ice. He's trying to kick him, and you're like, he's not going to make it. And then here comes a last-second save from the Hound, and now Tormund's fine, and you're just like, you love Tormund, and you don't want him to die, but that would have had consequences, real consequences.
And the white polar bear.
Oh,
I mean,
that was great.
It could have killed a lot more people than.
Well, before we jump too far ahead, to your point, I wanted to talk about the rest of these conversations because there was a lot of really good ones here. Tormund, obviously Tormund, like I said, just crushed it. There was some great conversations between Jorah and Jon. I liked how they closed a lot of the little. About the sword. I think I talked last week about like how come Jorah didn't say anything about the sword, about Longclaw to Jon, and you brought up that he didn't have it. Well, now he did have it, and there was a whole conversation about that, which I thought was a great conversation. And just Jorah giving the history of his family and why he doesn't deserve it, I thought was really powerful.
Was it the place to have that conversation, though?
I think it was the place because it's the first time they've had it. I do think Jon is an idiot at times, and when he's like, listen, Jon, you are going to fight White Walkers. You have the only Valyrian sword there. Maybe not give it away at that moment.
What happened to all the shit that they were mining?
Okay, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in problems because.
What the? Okay, sorry.
Because
I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, but also, we got some more conversations with Beric and Thoros and Gandry. The thing where Gandry was sold by the Men Without Banners, and he's still pissed about it. And basically, they told him to shut up. And I love how the Hound's like, "Are you still alive? Yeah, well, just shut the hell up, quit whining." Yeah. And it was like, "Yeah, that's right."
It's like, well, what'd you do to you? She tied me up in bed. Well, it sounds like you were just fine.
Yeah, it sounds like you were just fine. He's like, "It sounds good so far." And even just like with Thoros, who we haven't got a lot of time with. The drunken, I don't know what you call him, the drunken wizard priest.
He's a priest,
his greatest moment when he storms Pike, he doesn't even remember because he was wasted.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of the first half of this was so much character building with these characters, and that's why I was a little disappointed that none of it. Well, okay, we did lose Thoros, but other than him, who's probably the weakest of all those characters, as far as who you want to see live, we didn't really lose anybody big. That's where I think we're Tormund. If we could have lost him. It would have sucked, but it would have given this mission...
It would have been a lot more impactful.
Yeah. Because at the end, we lose somebody else that we'll talk about in a minute, and that has meaning, but it doesn't have meaning to Jon and the rest of them, right? This was one of them, and if they would have lost Tormund, who's undoubtedly his biggest supporter in the whole North, and he's this link with the Wildlings, I understand why that would have been a difficult story-wise to replace him, but George R. R. Martin would have killed him.
Yeah. It easily would have killed him. He probably going to kill him in the book.
Yeah. And
see, this is what this season has really done. It's not to say that the books are the end all of everything for this series, but as someone who's been reading all the books, it feels like the books has a lot more connected. I mean, even though it takes them 10 years to fucking write one, but it has the course is something that really sucks you in and draws you in, and it's even though they're very intertwined and crazy, it's done in the right way. Whereas this season kind of feels like they're starting to go off the rails. Like I'm actually starting to be a little concerned for how the season finale is going to go in the last season.
Well,
at this point,
yeah. Well, I think you're right there, and I think to your point where.
Because there's only, 6 episodes next season?
There's only 7 episodes total that we're getting, period, from now until the end of the series.
Yeah.
And there's still so much to do.
So
but to your point, I think...
Yeah, we can get to that at the end. But
well, and to your point, to expand on what you were just saying, I think one of the things that's been great about the show is there are undoubtedly points that even George R. R. Martin admitted that, hey, in the book maybe could have been done better. Like, a lot of people talked about the Hound versus Brienne's Heart. That was not in the books. And people talked about how much better that was on the show than the way it went down in the books, right? And so I think where the showrunners did a really good job of adding things to the book to make it a better saga. Now they don't have that source material, and now they're doing I'm not going to say a bad job, but they're doing much more of, we have these plot points, and we want to write things around to make it work, right?
Well,
and they're doing it in a much shorter period, where we had lots, 10 episodes a season to expand this stuff. They're just forcing it all into, a few episodes.
Well, here's the difference. It's like, this is like, you have, what's his face that was doing the Justice League movie? Now he's gone, and now Joss Whedon. So you're getting, this much of the movie is done by this guy, and then this much is going to be done by this guy.
Yeah.
And their visions are going to be completely different in how they want things to work.
Yeah, and
so what you're going to have is you're going to have this part is going to not really add up to this part.
Well, and I think what could end up happening. We could get, because George R. R. Martin has told them the outline of the major characters and how this whole thing ends, right? And the story of how it all ends. So I think what we're going to get is we're going to get the next.
An outline can only give you so much.
Well, I think that I feel like we're getting an outline, right? I feel like we're kind of getting Cliff Notes versions of the books now at this point doing the show. But I think what's going to happen is we got 7 episodes left. We're going to have 5 episodes that feel very much like this new Game of Thrones, where it's much more feels like a TV show than an actual like a saga. And then we're going to get these final 2 episodes that are George R. R. Martin again, and we're just going to get whiplash because everybody's safe now. You can just tell. They're saving everybody except for these major... some people might die tomorrow. We'll have or next week, and we'll have some theories about that but at the end of the show. But I think everybody's kind of safe. What they've told us is that if you're a character that the fans love, you're safe unless it's we have to kill you at that point, right? And I think what you could see, though, is you could see that happen. Then also in the last 2 episodes, they're just waxing everybody. It goes back to George R. R. Martin, nobody's safe rules, which is going to be kind of a strange transition to the end. But like I said, I don't want to trash this episode. It was a great episode. For anybody who's wondering why... So
let's focus on...
Yeah, like I said, this is the good part. But I will say this. Anybody who's wondering why possibly the seasons are shortened and they're not making them longer, because this episode could have easily been 2 episodes. In fact, I think it would have been a better fit had it been 2 episodes instead of the 1. But the reason why is because HBO... These episodes are costing a fortune because of... Have you seen how good the dragons look and the special effects and the fight scenes? Some of these fights, and there was 20 people lit on fire at once, right? Usually we got 1 episode a season that had this. Every single episode this season has had some major stuff in it.
Well, and you can't disagree with me when you say that one fucking undead wife.
Oh, dude,
that's like all skeleton, and it's like missing his whole jaw. That thing was fucking boss.
Oh yeah,
like that was better than any Game of Thrones or any Walking Dead zombie I've ever seen. Just that one fucking wife.
Oh yeah. Forget the wife for a second. You brought it up earlier. How about the bear? How about the undead bear? That was amazing. That was so cool. This giant bear. I was watching with a couple of friends, and we all jumped out of our seats when that bear. One person just screamed, "Holy fuck!" And it was like, "Oh my!" When the bear jumps out of nowhere and just kills. I'm just gonna call them red shirts, like what they used to do in Star Trek, because
I started
we had about 20, 30 guys that just came with them.
Yeah. Well, when they showed them all walking, I paused it and I counted. I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, okay, 7 of them are main characters. 2 people are going to die.
Yeah, well, there had to be 30 people who died. And I don't know where they kept coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that guy that fell off in the island, who the fuck was that guy?
Yeah, so we're going to call these guys, if you hear say the red shirts on this episode, that is who we're talking about. We're talking about the people who have no name, that we don't know if they were wildlings or probably wildlings. Or
a Brotherhood guy.
But they got wasted by that bear. And like I said, the special effects on this show have been amazing. And because of that money they've spent, they've had to shorten the seasons, so basically we're getting the trade-off there. Here, we're getting fantastic, unbelievable visuals of dragons, and we got to get Ghost. I want Ghost back. But these dragons and bears and undead everything are just gorgeous. I mean, the part when Jon Snow's fighting the White Walker and he hits him and immediately just disintegrates is just so well done. You can't even tell it's special effects. And so that's the trade-off. That's why these are shortened. That's why they're having to kind of skimp on storytelling a little bit. Now, I don't give them a free pass because you're still a good, amazingly talented room of writers. Some of these plot holes that we'll talk about later in this episode are just... Some of them are honestly just completely unexcusable. There's ways to write around that without it having making it work.
It could have been editing. Like they may have been able to have like a lot more stuff, but it's just like it seemed like maybe for the sake of editing they had to cram a lot of stuff in.
Yeah.
But God, some of these plot holes are fucking. You can drive a bus through it. You can fly a 747 Dragon through some of these plot holes.
Yeah, well, so speaking of plot holes, you can drive a bus through. We'll talk about Gendry at the very end of this episode, and his, like you said, his trek across the Northlands. That leads us into the battle of the Ice Lake.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? You want to start at Gendry, or...?
No, we'll talk about Gendry later. Okay, so let's dive into the Battle of the Ice Lake, and we don't need to spend too much time talking about the battle. It was great. I felt it was amazing. We already talked about Tormund. Unfortunately, without anybody dying, it took away from the... I mean, we're all on the edge of a seat, just kind of like, who's not going to die? But when they pulled Tormund out, I knew that nobody was going to die. Well, I guess, okay, let me backtrack. We did lose somebody. We lost... The Bears started it, and the Long Night finished it, but we lost Thoros, the drunken...
priest.
The drunken priest. And we lost him kind of crappy. He gets eaten by the bear, survives, and then freezes to death because they're stuck on this island in the middle of this lake waiting for somebody to save him.
Yeah, waiting for...
Daenerys to show up with their dragons.
Well,
so what did you think of the fight itself, though? Where would you rank this? Would you rank it as one of the better fights, or just kind of an average?
Nothing will beat the Battle of the Bastards, honestly. I don't know. That's like one of the best.
As far as fight scenes goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you rank this? How would you rank this against Hardhome? Because this is two zombie fights.
Against Hardhome, I would say this one. I definitely thought how the variation of White Walkers they had, because in Hardhome they had a lot more physical effects. They had people that were just kind of like make-upped up, and this one had a lot more CG. Like I was saying earlier, that skeleton, that was missing his whole jaw and everything like that. I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Well, and there was a lot of humor too when the Hound's like throwing rocks at him and knocks off his
jaw.
I
knew that was not going to end well.
No, of course not. And the Hound's like, oh shit.
So that was my version of curling, where he
threw the rock and it skidded.
Yeah.
I think I like this one. Here's my problem with this one. Because nobody died, the stakes. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna say nobody died because we do lose a couple big characters at the end of this, but I think in Hardhome, even though none of the main characters died in Hardhome, they spent a little bit of time getting to know the villagers and those kids and the people, and you cared about them trying to escape, and you felt the terror of them all trying to get to the boats, and at the end, when they were all, zombies, you felt that a little bit more. This one was epic, but it didn't really feel like, like you said, once you knew, Tormund made it, everybody was going to be it.
Yeah, and you don't really feel bad for Viserys. You feel bad that the dragon died.
Yeah.
It was literally a dragon you have not seen all season long.
Well, there you go.
You haven't seen it since it was flying across at the very beginning.
It was the red shirt of dragons. I mean,
it was her brother.
So I'm with you. I think the battle was great. I think visually and choreography wise, it was much better than Hardhome. It's the best fight we've seen against White Walkers so far. But like I said earlier,
we learned something that if you kill one of the White Walkers that's commanding a group or whatever it's turned,
that was a big reveal.
Then they all just immediately drop and die.
Was it a little convenient that one just happened to be just one single one didn't die?
Yeah.
But to your point, we learned something huge in this is that when they originally captured the one zombie, we learned we learned that if you kill a White Walker, all the people he's turned dies with him, which is going to play a massive role in the finale of this whole show, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But and secondly, we learned that the zombies are all connected because, like, when they would kick the one, all the other zombies would feel it, right? So it goes to show that they're all, and I think they did that for a simple reason of you can. They are all connected to each other. Who's connected to the Night King, and so they kind of revealed in this: if we kill that guy, we win this war.
So good luck getting to that guy.
Good luck getting to that, though, because when Daenerys finally does show up with her dragons, and it's awesome. John's about to die, as always.
Did she have 3 or 2?
She got all 3. They were all there. They were just fucking everything up. Because, once again, Jon Snow literally has to get... It's like 3 times on the show, he's gotten into his, like, death stance where he's just, like, got this look on his face where he's like, all right, it's the end. Here we come. And then he keeps getting saved by everybody. So, I love Jon Snow. Favorite character on the show, but that man is a idiot. Blazing fool when it comes to battle strategy.
Well, there was no reason that when everybody was getting on the dragon, he's all like, well, I'm just going to keep fighting.
Well, did you watch the After of Thrones where the DB Weiss and Benioff get on there and explain it? Their explanations for some of these characters made no sense to what we actually saw, right? No. They said Jon had to protect him. Now, when they gave that context and showed the scene again, it made a little sense, but, like... I just didn't get that.
You're on the back of a fucking dragon.
Why do we need to see Jon once again? This whole scene, in my opinion, was set up just to kill off Cold Hands, to write that character off the board, right?
And to have what? Is that closure that we needed?
I didn't think we needed. I mean, he was a better character just off in the wilds than watching him die, And for those who don't know who Cold Hands is, he's Benjen. We've seen him on the show before, but in the books he's referred to as Cold Hands. I didn't mind him saving the day. We kind of speculated last week that either him or Ghost could show up and save the day, and he did. But the way Benjen did it, so the dragon gets away. They all fly because the Night King, being just the badass he is, just throws a spear and just downs this dragon, right? And Viserion just explodes and then drops down. And I'd like to say that we on the show were correct. We will always give shout outs to people who are right, and we were right. That a dragon would fall, and it was going to be that punk Viserion, named after Dany's older brother, who was also a punk.
And, I mean, so the Night King can throw a giant ice spear 5,000 yards at a target that's moving through the air.
I did like how Drogon was like...
Where he just like... And he just goes...
I do like how Drogon didn't even he's just like, psh, please, I've seen this before. I'm just dodging out of the way. But and real quick, anybody who did not know that that was Viserion who died, you are not alone. They did a terrible job of telling us which dragon it was. We only knew it because we went online and found it after the fact. But if you want to watch it again and know for yourself, apparently Rhaegar is he's like a green. He's like a green and like a lighter green and a darker green, and Viserion was a gold and a green, and that's how you can tell he was the one that died. But
gold because he got dumped in gold.
Because he got dumped in gold because George R. R. Martin is a jerk.
Or if you're also if you're hard of hearing like me, I listen with the captions on, and it says Viserion roaring.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Put it on the captions from now on. But that was a pretty cool scene, and it really did a good job of letting us know that, like I said, 2 things. One, the Night King. He's the end game. I really think it's going to... That stare down between him and Jon when Jon's like, I'm going to kill that guy, that, I think, is telling us what's going to happen at the very end of this series when it comes to the Night King. There will be a mission to defeat the Night King. Well, we'll talk about that in spoilers for what's coming up next season, I guess. I keep saying we're talking about that later, but I definitely think they gave us that. And we gave us the dragon, man, can be defeated. These dragons aren't the end-all, be-all. You can kill a dragon
and turn it into a dragon white.
Yeah, and then turn it to a damn... There's a lot of debate. What do you think? You think it's going to be an ice dragon, or do you think it's going to be just a regular dragon that's under the control of...
I think it'll be a regular dragon. I don't think it's going to shoot ice out of... I mean, it might be like blue fire. Mm-hmm. And I think that's...
So like some kind of an ice fire almost?
I'll save this for my theory. But it's a nice... A dragon is a white controlled by the Night King, just like that bear was and everything else. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I also have a theory about the head of the dragon that we'll talk about. Let's see here. But what did you think about Benjen and Cold Hands? I haven't read all the books. I know he was a bigger character in the books. How did you feel about the way they handled his ending? Do you feel it was a little too unnecessary, or do you think it was like, whatever?
Well, he wasn't like a huge player in the. I mean, he did help Bran. He was one of the ones that helped Bran escape. Because they didn't have. I'm trying to remember. Because Hodor doesn't die in the book that way. The way I'm trying. It's been so long. I'm gonna stall forever. No, and Cold Hands in the book. I mean, he's a great character, but he's not his Uncle Benjen. I mean, he's a completely different guy.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. To my recollection, I mean, he rides an elk. He doesn't ride a horse. He rides a giant elk. It's like like not just a tiny. It's like a huge fucking elk that he rides.
Sounds cool.
He just kind of like drops. He doesn't really have that much to do. He's kind of in and out. So. I think they really only had Uncle Benjen there just to kind of have like an extra tie, because you have to be a lot different with
Jon. Jon Snow has run out of things that can save him.
You got to be a lot different with the show than you can in the books, because the book is just easy to to let kind of a character go and stuff like that, because there's so much going on in the pages. But in the show, I mean, everybody wants to connect. Well, what happened to this guy?
Yeah, true.
And so
now we know.
They brought back Gendry after 2 years.
That's true. Well, Benjen is dead. He saved like it or not. He saved Jon. Jon got one more heroic stand again for no reason, and rode the horse to the wall where Dany, who loves him to death now, was waiting for him, and they got a real sexy boat ride where Jon and her basically. I don't know. That was a weird scene. Where he's like half naked and she's like, ooh, and he's like
looking at his scars from where he got stabbed all over.
Yeah, and he finally bends the knee to her, which obviously that
just makes it more creepy that she's his aunt.
Yeah, but this show does not have a problem with creepy. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with it bending the knee because we were talking about the conversations earlier when Tormund had told them, hey. How's it going? And he's like, well, she wants me to bend the knee. And he's like, yeah, I can understand that. He goes, but Mace Rider, King of the North, never been his King of Beyond the Wall, never been his knee to anybody. And look how many people died because of his pride, And, Jon says, okay, that makes sense and does it. But it's just the whole scene felt a little like Daenerys was real mad. I mean, it wasn't the reaction I thought about losing one of her dragons. I mean, in essence, Jon admits, like, I made a bad plan. I'm really sorry. And she's just like, oh, it's okay. It just, I don't know. It feels like they're really trying to force these two together in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the whole. Oh, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I think Jon is going to be possibly the next in line.
Well, this episode did. It's not in our notes, but I'll talk for a quick second. There was a scene between Tyrion and Dany earlier in this where that was a weird scene too, where like she's like, "Oh, Tyrion, I trust you," and then she starts yelling at him, getting all mad. It was kind of weird, but he wanted to talk about succession because she just keeps running into everything, and I mean, he definitely was foreshadowing the fact that going in blind it was going to cost her. In this episode, it cost her one of her dragons, but they talk a lot. So then a couple things in this episode where they talked about the future, succession, and children. They talked about Daenerys, who can't have children, but she needs to name a successor. And then also Jorah told, Jon, like, hey, keep the sword for your family and your children. And then...
Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, there's a lot of on-the-nose writing in this, right? That seems like they're definitely leading this together. Now, it would be a good Game of Thrones twist to completely...
Jon and Dany are gonna fuck, and the first night they fuck, she's gonna get pregnant and pop out like 6 kids.
Yes, and then the moment she's pregnant, they're gonna be all excited, and Bran's gonna be like, I have something to tell you, since he's like the worst timer of events ever, But, honestly, speaking of Bran and Winterfell...
He's just sitting in his room smoking weed.
Well,
I'm fucking 3-eyed Raven. I see everything.
Speaking of Bran and Winterfell, where the hell is he right now? Because Arya and Sansa...
He could be keeping his sisters from fucking killing each other. That's what he could be doing.
Alright, so last week we see that Littlefinger plays, he's kind of playing Arya, and we speculated maybe Arya's playing him. And she still might be. But this week, Arya goes like full Hannibal Lecter, and is like basically telling Sansa she wants to like cut off her face and eat her liver with some fava beans.
These are my faces. I like to wear them.
I mean, okay, they do a good job.
I didn't know they're actual rubber faces. Like, she kept, rubber faces.
They're real faces. Okay.
I guess... so those were the actual...
I guess I missed that part when I was watching the show, that whenever the mini faces are people that have been killed, and then they remove their faces, and that's where they can wear them. So our theory of Arya wearing Sansa's face would only come true if she was actually going to kill Sansa, which I thought she might kill her and take her face the way she was acting all creepy. I mean, they've done a good job of letting us see through Arya's eyes how she views Sansa, right? Because she doesn't have the benefit of watching the show. And I think that's one thing that's it's weird watching it, because we've seen so much of these character arcs and we've seen so much of what they've gone through, but they're all starting to get reunited, and because none of them are really talking about what they've gone through, they aren't seeing their stories through each other's eyes.
And Jon's not even fucking giving Sansa a heads up on what's going on, apparently. She hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks.
And the Lords of the North are all a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't have a concrete storyline to build off of, and you're like, well, fuck, what do we do now? How are we gonna?
The hard part is when you have the massive plot device too, with Bran sitting in Winterfell and he knows everything. So why wouldn't one of them have a conversation with him about so what's going on? And Bran says, "Hey, don't trust Littlefinger."
Yeah, they're all too creeped out apparently by their brother, and he said he knows everything. He's a third-eyed raven, and they're like. Ugh. And then they just walk away. You could be tapping him. And
Arya and Sansa have no less than 2 or 3 times each said, "You don't know what I've gone through." Well, maybe you should have some fucking tea and talk about it, right?
Yeah, fucking have some. Just sit your asses down.
Well, of course, Sansa finds all these faces and she's creeped out, right? So I mean, it was really weird, because you could feel the tension last week, and then Littlefinger kind of says something about Brienne of Tarth to get rid of her, and then Sansa, who supposedly is onto Littlefinger, immediately gets rid of Brienne of Tarth, and I'm just like, oh, God.
Well, no, I thought he was saying that she would get involved.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why Sansa sent her away, so she wouldn't get involved.
So she wouldn't get involved, but Littlefinger knows that Brienne of Tarth doesn't like him and trust him and will protect Sansa from him. So she immediately just sends him off, right? So it's like everything Sansa's learned is just out. She is so... And then so she's got Littlefinger in one ear. Her only real ally in Brienne of Tarth is now going to be gone. And you've got psychopath Arya, who a few episodes she was talking about, this isn't me. She meets Nymeria and kind of snaps back into normal. And now she's on this murder rampage where...
Yeah. And then you have your little brother who doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You don't even talk to.
He's all-seeing, knowing everything, but just sits around and just hangs out by the tree, I guess.
He's told you that he knows what's going to, he knows everything that's ever happened.
Yeah. He said you watched her, you talk about how beautiful she was the night she got raped on her wedding night. And you forget to mention that, oh yeah, by the way, Littlefinger did it all. Maybe you shouldn't trust this guy. Arya, Sansa's not so bad.
Maybe the season finale is going to be our chance to see Bran maybe say something. And Arya, well, I guess if she was going to she'd have to cut off Sansa's face.
Well, I mean, we can dive a little bit into what we think is going to happen. I mean, since we're talking about this, I honestly still think the end is. I think the storyline, for whatever reason, I don't even know what the end point of it is anymore. Right? I don't know why we're having this story. It doesn't play into the bigger battle. It doesn't even really play in anything. Jon is the king of the North. He's doing his thing. Cersei's in control, of King's Landing. And you have the White Walkers coming. I don't even know what point the Arya Sansa storyline even plays in the bigger picture. And not only do we not know what it plays, it doesn't make any sense anymore. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the end game is, which is fine for storytelling, but it just seems weird.
It seems like they've written those 3 to a point where they don't matter in the story right now.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do to further the story. Other than to just bicker with themselves and make you hate Littlefinger.
But yet they're all really good actors, so maybe they just playing them off each other, because they've been given some amazing scenes. The acting's been superb. I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and none of their scenes added anything to the story. They could have done without those scenes, and it still wouldn't change anything about Winterfell.
Well, the biggest problem that I have is that, and the fact that all they'd have to do is tell a little bit of story about themselves or even just talk to each other and bring. Why don't they just be like Sansa? Go, okay, you know what? I'm bringing Littlefinger in here. I'm bringing Bran in here. We're gonna have to talk this out, right? Or Bran of Tarth. Just get together and talk to people. Where earlier in the season, everyone did such a good job of calling each other out for their BS. Now all of a sudden, these two characters have taken a complete 180 and aren't talking to anybody, and they're just. I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I do believe that it's going to come to a head next week. Sansa could die. I definitely think Littlefinger's gone. I just don't see him being needed past this point, right?
Yeah. And I don't know what's going to happen, honestly, in Winterfell. I mean, I think our theory still might work out in some way, but
all I know is that stupid dagger better play a part, because they've been teasing the cat's paw literally all season long.
Yeah. And wasn't Arya playing with it when they were playing the Game of Faces?
Yeah. So what if I have one little theory that I'm going to share. What if Littlefinger's already dead? What if Arya is wearing Littlefinger to test Sansa's loyalty?
So, like, after he found the letter and stuff like that,
after she found the note, maybe she tortured and killed him, and we'll see that like in a little bit of a flashback or something. And she's now testing Sansa, and maybe she does kill Sansa as Littlefinger, and then pulls her frickin' face off. Kills Sansa, everyone thinks it was Littlefinger that did it, and then she becomes the Lady of Winterfell. Pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that'd be really fucked up.
What if Arya, what if we're not seeing a hero? What if we're seeing a villain? What if we're seeing, like, Arya become one of the main villains in the show towards the end of the game?
She's the new Mad Queen.
Yeah. She's just like a murder bot. I don't know. You know what? If my theory about the White Walkers pans out anyway, one of the big scenes of next season is going to be Winterfell fighting the White Walkers. So Winterfell, I think, is going to fall at some point. I'm just not sure what's going to happen yet. But all right, but as we promised, we got to talk about the things. I mean, we've talked a little bit about them. So the things that are just there were some major issues with this episode, and we will loosely talk about them. Plot holes to me is the biggest issue. The pacing, what we've already talked about with the writing. And the story, and the fact that they don't have George R. R. Martin anymore to really guide them, I think it's creating these major plot holes that this episode in particular, there's been a few, but this one really, they just stood out because they had so much happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Which one do you want to start with first? What do you want to start with? Let's start with Gendry, since you were doing the run capades.
Yeah, so they've been walking... Have they camped for tonight yet?
I don't know. I think they camped once.
They've been walking all day long, at least. Through, 40 miles of mountains?
Oh, yeah, easy. Blizzard, snow, rain, sleet, ice.
It wasn't even dark yet by the time they got into their big fight, and they realized they needed to send the fastest one out of all of them. And that was apparently Gendry. And
he has no food, no provisions, no water.
And he just hands the Hound his hammer and just turns around and starts running.
Yeah.
And he's got to run. Okay, so let's say theoretically it was one day. How far do you think he can walk in one day up a mountain? And then they walk across a mountain range.
Well,
and then
if they walked all that in one day, they went a long
and then they
ways
saw, and then he goes in the distance. That was like 20 miles away. He goes, oh hey, there's that Arrowhead Mountain that I saw in my vision. It was really fucking far away. And then they walked all the way to that.
Okay, so let's say
so they walked 60 miles.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say even 20 miles. So Gendry ran 20 miles in one day.
No, one night.
When he took off running.
Or the end of a day. And we don't know how far into the night.
So he ran into the night. So in one day, about a day, let's just give him say one full day, he ran all the way there. And in that time...
After walking there.
Yeah.
Walking 20 miles and then turning around and sprinting the 20 miles back.
They get a raven to Daenerys, which, if you're looking at a map of Westeros, the East Watch is like all the way... up the map from where Dragonstone is. The Raven goes right to Dragonstone, and then Daenerys is on her dragon in the north
by
in
morning.
Like a day, right?
Yeah.
This season has been fast-tracked.
No, it was less than a day because he got there at night. Mm-hmm. So let's say he left at 3 o'clock at night because it was still fairly light out. So they've been walking all morning. he maybe gets back so it took them 8 hours to go 20 miles. So let's say he was jogging all the way back like he was, and it maybe took him 5 hours to get back. So 7, 9 o'clock now. And so they send a raven at 9 o'clock that flies 1,000 miles, theoretically.
Yeah.
Or maybe 500. I mean, we don't know the scale.
To say, it's a long ways, and this whole show has been fast-tracking ravens and stuff, and moving people really quickly, which I haven't had a problem with because it's made the show much more faster-paced and interesting. But when your major plot points rely on these time travel, and you've set a time travel, a distance that it takes on the show, you cannot have this much distance covered in mere minutes on the show. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. She was walking out in the day, in the morning, right? Because there was light out when she was walking out, and Tyrion's like, no, you can't go. So they got the raven over the night into the early morning. She hops on the dragon and is...
Wouldn't it have made more sense for them to bring a raven, and they could have sent a raven?
I don't know.
You had 50 red shirts that magically showed up. The red shirts, another plot point. There's 7 guys at the end of last episode that go through, and there's and then you counted them, there's 9, but literally 10, 15 red shirts got murdered?
Yeah.
And then Jon's continual miraculously, this time wasn't, he gets drugged all the way down to the bottom of the water, like you said. He magically shows up, he's half frozen, then he gets on a horse, which is another magical save.
No, he got up and was able to walk around. Have you ever watched Bear Grylls?
Yeah, you can't move your muscles.
Yeah, he dives into the water naked, and he gets up and he's your muscles are frozen. He's has to do jumping jacks just to get his body going. Jon gets up, he's
I'm ready to fight, kind of. I mean, he's definitely slow and frozen, but then they put him on the horse, and then he's already frozen, completely frozen solid. The horse takes him to the freaking wall with Daenerys still standing there watching. He's completely frozen. They're peeling off his clothes, which are frozen, and then he's on a boat headed back to King's Landing with Daenerys, and this all happens in a matter of 30 seconds.
So here's what happened. The writers really started playing Skyrim, this last season, and they're it's really nice that I can just click on this town and it says, "Do you want to fast travel here?"
Yeah.
And you hit yes, and then you're boop. And it's they'll change the time period, so if you're in the day, it'll be night by the time you get to the town. So I think that's essentially what they're doing. They're just boop, fast traveling.
And here's my problem. And then honestly, you add to it Daenerys. As much as I like Daenerys' character, I like where she's progressed. She seems to be so smitten with Jon for really not any major reason, right? And that seems a little frustrating because she's so focused on getting the Iron Throne, except for when it comes to Jon now, and she's just woo, and it just...
And he's come on, my lady, we need to, leave. And she's just a moment.
Her and Jon right now, their relationship feels a little, kind of what you mentioned earlier, a little fan-servicey. And not killing Tormund feels a little fan-servicey, and not killing Bran feels a little fan-servicey. And I'm starting to feel like the writers care more about fan service than they do about keeping the threads of Game of Thrones and making this feel like Game of Thrones, which, I don't think I'm not going to say they jumped the shark, because this was a really solid episode in a lot of ways. But, that being said, if we continue down this path, by the time we get to the finale, it's not going to feel like the same show. And it's really going to show when you binge watch the whole series. It's going to be wait a minute, what is this?
And this just goes to show you that the fans are disgusted that a brother and sister are boning, but they apparently have no qualms with an aunt and her nephew potentially boning.
Oh, yeah, well, that's probably going to happen at some point. All right, so enough of the problems, because we didn't want to crap all of this episode, because we did a lot of big
I
parts.
loved the episode. Like you said, I was on the edge of my seat the whole fucking time. And, the second it was over, I texted you, I was like, fuck!
Yeah, and
because it was awesome.
Watching Drogon show up and just be... this is 3 weeks in a row we've seen Drogon just be a badass mofo, right? I mean, we were going to get a badass... The one cool thing about losing Viserion, we were going to get a badass dragon fight, right? We were going to get, dragons, on dragon action. It's going to be awesome.
The Night King has thrown the spear.
Yeah.
He's got nothing. Drogon's got to turn his head and fucking torch the guy who's standing close enough to him. He could torch him, and it's fucking over.
Yeah, to be fair, though, they were all kind of in shock, and Dany didn't know that was the Night King, and this is the first time she got to see it. So, the good points about this is, one, now we know the dragons aren't invincible. I mean, they aren't the end-all, be-all to this. There's real danger with the Night King, even with Dany and her dragons. Number one.
Yeah,
Number two.
Nobody else has got the fucking cannon arm of the Night King and giant ice spears.
Number two, now Dany knows, so the only person they got to try and get is Cersei, which next week it looks like they'll try. They are going to fail. Cersei has something up her sleeve because she's Cersei.
Well, it's like Tyrion said. His sister is going to assume that they're laying a trap, and so she's going to be laying her own trap.
And
then she's going to be laying her own trap for what she thinks they're... Cersei has no motivation to join forces.
I would personally just love to see Drogon come down and torch the entire Lannisters and just... All right, let's deal on the Night Watch, or the Night King. But, so, a lot of people theorize that we could finally see the Clegane Bowl next week, because the Hound is he's the one taking the zombie to King's Landing, and we all know the mountain's there. And a lot of people have brought up that, this isn't my theory, so I don't claim credit for it, but it would be very Cersei of her to say, I will listen to you after we have a trial by combat, because they are in a combat arena, and then having the Hound and the mountain fight.
Is that what that...
Yeah, so apparently that's called the Dragon, like the Dragon House Arena or something. Apparently that's where the old Targaryens used to house their dragons. So it's right outside of King's Landing. It's like in the city, but it's an abandoned area. So that's one theory. I think that would be pretty cool. It's not my theory, but I could definitely see that happening. It would be great to see the mountain. The mountain. Plus, we always talked about the mountain as kind of a big plot device to protecting Cersei. If the Hound and the mountain fought and the mountain lost, you could finally see Cersei become much more vulnerable because she doesn't have her zombie protector around.
And the Hound's going to be fucking itching to kill his brother.
Yeah,
he just wants to just fucking smash.
Well, this week he basically is the reason why Thoros died was because the polar bear was on fire, and he, true to his character, afraid of fire, had to turn, and Thoros unfortunately got the brunt into that. But the big things we got from this is Bellart can no longer be brought back from the dead, or Jon, because Thoros is gone. So unless Melisandre comes out, I've heard a theory where Jon may die again, and Beric may sacrifice his final life to bring Jon back, which I don't know if Jon's coming back. I think the next time either one of those two die, they'll die. But so we got that. We got the Night King now has a dragon, which I think could help lead to my theory that the end of next episode we are going to see the wall come down. I think the wall is coming down.
The dragon is what's going to take down the wall.
I think the dragon's going to be what takes down the wall.
I think there's no doubt about that now. That is the only thing that is going to be strong enough to take down the wall.
Especially if he still can bring some kind of a magic ice fire and just...
I'm curious to see if the Night King can just fly over the wall with the dragon.
That was the other one, but it's very anticlimactic, as he could fly over the wall and then open the gate and then let everybody through.
Yeah.
But you know what? The wall that has long been said that it's protected by magic. So maybe something like the dragon can break the magic by melting the wall, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I think visually it is too good to not have happen, right? Because not only that, how many times have we heard this season, everything will be fine as long as the wall stands, which is foreshadowing to the wall coming down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of blue flame. And it's going to melt a portion of the wall or something like that.
Yeah, because and then maybe once a portion of the wall's open, the whole wall will come down, or maybe they just need a small part of the wall. They don't need the whole thing to come down. But I think that's
get you a few 100,000 soldiers to go through.
Yeah, well, there's that. So I think that'll be the end when it comes to the Night King and his army of the undead. I think that's what we'll see at the end of next week. I also think, like I said earlier, Littlefinger will be dead. I also think that we're gonna get a flashback. I keep hearing that Rhaegar has been cast for this season, so I think we're gonna, one way or another, we're gonna find out Jon's true lineage by the end of this. I think, and not just us. I think there are going to be major characters in this show, including Jon, that are going to find out that Jon is actually.
I think Sam is going to be a part of that big reveal. Just because he's kind of more of the thinky. He does the big kind of thinky reveals, I think. Mm-hmm. Just because of his knowledge and where he's at, and I don't think they're going to leave him the season if that's all he did was cure Jorah Grayscale and a very obscure plot point turning that he didn't even catch on because Guinea was just reading it to him and he was too pissed off. So I think Sam definitely has a place to play. God, I was thinking of something and then I totally forgot what my other theory was. So,
all right, well, think about it. So, Jon's true parentage is going to come out. I think that's going to be a massive plot. We won't even, and the sad part is we will not get to discuss it at all because it'll end right after we know that. And as far as Cersei and them go, I have no idea what's going to happen with Lannister or their meeting. I don't think it's going to go as planned, and I think it could end up really crazy. I don't know about Arya and Sansa. I have zero theories because I have no idea where that whole thing's going to go. But, sorry. Those are the only theories we got. And then, of course, my grand finale is that the end game is here. We're going to get dragon battles next season, and we're going to get Jon versus the Night King. But we will break all of those down next week when we have our 80-minute season finale of Game of Thrones, which is going to be the longest episode yet, and you know it's going to be jam-packed full of goodness.
Yeah, you know the wall's fucking going down.
Yeah.
Because
they're going to blow their proverbial financial load all over that episode, and we are going to also do the same. So we will get that to you as soon as we can. If we have time, we'll try and record next Sunday, but if not, we'll have it up Monday for you guys. As always, if you have any theories or is anything that you want to talk about or think that we didn't get right or we did get right, give us a shout-out. Let us know in the comments, and we'll give you a shout-out on the show if you're correct on anything. But anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, as much as we knocked on this episode, it's still a solid episode. Yeah. They're still paying tons of fan service. Our only issue is that maybe they need to have George R. R. Martin come and kind of tell them a little bit more finer details on things.
Well, maybe we'll get him to write a few of the episodes next season and clean it up. And you know what, to be fair, this is the first episode where we've had some plot holes that have really affected the overall product. So maybe this is just, this could be one of those episodes where they say we got a lot to do, so let's just cram it in and move it forward, and we'll see. But hopefully, like I said, the season's been amazing. I do not anticipate that the finale will not be just blow our minds. I think it's going to be great. I think we're in store for some crazy shit. But we would love to hear your guys' theories about what you think is going to happen with Cersei and everybody else.
And hopefully HBO Spain doesn't accidentally release it early. Yeah. And that's to spend a whole week trying to avoid everything.
Be aware, there are spoilers everywhere all the time. So
the night is dark and full of spoilers, everyone.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, until next week, guys. Thanks for joining us for our breakdown of Beyond the Wall, and keep watching Game of Thrones. We'll see you guys next week.
Enjoy the finale, everyone.
Oh, yeah.